So this video is going to be about doing trials. So in all these videos, well, almost all of them, we're suggesting new things that you can do or things you might look at doing, and actually carrying out a trial yourself to see whether it's beneficial or not. Some of those things can be just a little bit complicated, so I'll try and take you through now what sorts of things you have to think about when you're doing it. The real thing which most beekeepers and kefir growers that I work with is when they get something new to do, they want to do everything. Like a kefir grower will get a new machine to blow pollen on. You can never get him to stop and leave a few vines unpollinated to find out whether the thousands and thousands of dollars he's spending every year on pollinating is actually having any positive effect or not. And beekeepers are like that as well. Like, for instance, when a beekeeper decides to feed a pollen substitute or supplement, the tendency is to just go to feed everything, and they'll never know whether it was beneficial or not. So what sorts of things might you test? And we've suggested a few. One of them might be double queening, to find out whether double queen hives are any better than single queens. If you're not replacing your queen every year, you could try with some of your hives replacing it every year to see whether there's a positive effect. The idea of trying to requeen without removing your old queen, again, you could do some half apiaries with that, and half apiaries where you actually remove the old queen before you requeen. So there's a whole list of possible topics. Now, the thing you need with any experiment is replication. There's no point in doing one hive double queened and the next one not, because there's so much hive to hive variation at any rate, you may not pick up any difference. And our recommendation for most things is you have 20 hives that you just treated normally, and if we're looking at double queen hives, these will be 20 colonies with just one queen, and 20 colonies with 2 queens. So you've got a big sample size. It'll probably have to be split between 2 apiaries, but you need the same number of single queen hives and double queen hives at the same apiary. So if it's 40 hives, you might have 10 treatment and 10 control hives in one apiary, and 10 treatment single queen hives and 10 double queen hives at another apiary. And other than that treatment, you've got to do everything else the same. You've got to give them the same amount of space to put it in there. All the other beekeeping things you do have to be the same for the colonies for whatever you're testing, and your control colonies are just getting their normal management. So you can't treat them any differently on the way through. Then you have to go through and measure, well, was there effect or not? And if it's something that affects honey, like double queening, the easiest thing to do you can either weigh the honey that's removed, or you can count the number of full frames that you take out. And that's a good proxy for the amount of honey they collected. And you need to record for each hive how much they've collected, and relate that back to whether it was a treatment colony or not. So if you've got 20 hives in each treatment, you should have 20 numbers for the amount of honey you produced from each colony. And to do that, of course, you have to have your colonies numbered, because you have to be able to follow individual colonies. And the best way I've found, these are air tags for cattle. They last forever. You just cut off that air tag bit and staple it onto the floorboard, so that all your colonies are individually numbered, and you can follow what happens with each colony depending on what you're doing with it. The other thing you can measure, if you're really keen, is the number of frames of brood or the number of frames of bees. That's kind of secondary. It's harder to do. Honey is probably the easiest, and the good thing about it, it's what pays your bills at the end, but there are other things you can measure on the way through. So in summary, if you're going to set up a trial, you need to work out what you're going to test, of course. You need replication. You need a number of hives that are just your standard treatment, what you're normally going to do, or plus another group of hives that you're going to treat with whatever thing you want to test. You have to pick them randomly, and you have to have the same number of treatment and controls at each apiary site, and then work out how you're going to measure it at the end. And what we've done, what Ecritech has provided us on their website is a spreadsheet to allow you to put the numbers in, and it will tell you whether there is a significant difference between your treatment and your control and how big that difference was.